Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Basically, this is the next part, that is the 75th part basically. So one of the person told that really basically this is correct or not, but basically we can't test, na basically. Why? Because we don't have the authority, we don't have the access modifier. But the government basically, like the company like Maruti Group basically, they enters into the private mobile group basically. So that is the, for example, my number is 8140456426. So they basically enters into my mobile basically with the help of the, I don't know which hacker group basically hacked, and they basically change the numbers basically. They can do this type of stuff basically, but the stuff basically which they are supposed to check basically they are not checked. So like this basically access modifier we are ongoing. This whole thing basically we have already discussed. Then also basically we see public basically say that the public private property methods access modifier where basically, so this is basically default. Protected basically is the protect accessible to the class by the derived class, by the class is derived from that class basically, and the private basically is only for the private class basically. So see basically how it's getting declared. Public, you can declare the function also, you can declare the variables also, protected and private basically. Like this basically the modifier basically are getting declared basically. Like this the modifier basically are getting declared basically. So this all thing basically. See basically public function also basically we can declare. I already told this long before, just now five, yeah, in few videos also basically I had told this basically. Again basically I repeated this. It's telling that if you will declare like this it will be error. Oops, inheritance. Oops, everybody knows object oriented programming. Inheritance means inheriting, inherit. That basically word is an English word basically. It is going to inherit everything basically. It is going to inherit everything. For example, one person basically, there is one person basically Sunil or NAIR, and Sunil or NAIR basically going to do second marriage. So by default basically the second marriage group girls basically, girls family basically, they are basically by default the family member of Sunil or NAIR basically. Why? Because it has inherited with the help of the relationship basically. So through relationship basically the inheritance is basically done. So this is the best example of inheritance. Marriage basically, done the marriage, second marriage, and in second marriage basically the all the relationship basically will automatically gets inherits to the Sunil basically. So what is inheritance, that is basically inheritance in OOPS basically when a class derives from the another class. So the class derives from the another class. The child class will inherit at all the public and the protected property and method basically at the parent class. So wherever basically you are inheriting, that is basically the parent class. That basically you want to say basically. In addition, basically it can have its own properties and methods also basically. So that basically we will see later on basically. And inheritance basically is done by extends basically. So see basically. This is one class fruit. This is strawberry class fruit strawberry basically. People few people say strawberry. Few people say strawberry. So see basically. This class basically have method and message and intro basically. Intro basically is function of fruit class basically, but it's a public. So if it's a public, then basically strawberry also basically will get access of that public class basically. That is by default, and this basically gets run automatically when the object is initialized. When the object basically calls basically or it gets initialized basically. See basically. So one of the person told that access modifier is very dangerous stuff basically, and you are giving the, it's like that the power of authority basically, or basically power of eternity basically you can say, or basically we can say power basically is given from one group to the another group basically. So that basically is the inheritance basically, and that basically has certain level of restrictions, certain level of authority basically you have to give. So lots of stuff basically are there basically. So see basically, extend fruits. So intro basically comes here basically. Try to call this method outside the class basically. So you are basically calling message, that is basically strawberry, and another basically say that basically it will give an error basically. So in the above example, we try to call the protected method intro basically in the class, basically it gives the error. Public method will work fine basically. Look the another example. Have you seen that basically? Message is getting called. Within message basically we have called intro. Called protected method from within derived class is okay. One of the person told that, is it possible that basically few stuff basically sometimes doesn't work? Sometimes basically we will not able to believe it basically, but this was not actually tested by, even basically this was not tested by C and C++ group also basically. I will मैं आपको एक example देता हूँ. You will not able to believe it basically. Uh, uh, how this basically connects, that you see basically. How basically this is connecting to the real world basically, that you see. That basically time basically is less, so basically we will discuss in next video. Then also we will discuss few things basically. One of the person told that this class everything basically is okay basically, right? It's getting derived basically, right? Public basically, whenever basically the public is declared, that basically is by default basically can be called by the any of the group basically. But sometime basically this doesn't work basically. Sometimes which you will not able to believe it basically. This is basically same way the railway group basically has done one error basically, and they basically still they have the error basically when they books the ticket basically. That time sometime basically the ticket number na basically gets same basically. You will not able to believe it basically. This is error by the, but they internally checks the stuff basically, that if same error ticket number is booked na, they will not allocate that ticket number, but they had done the error but they have done the validation basically, that if ticket number basically is coming same, then basically it's not supposed to be allocated, but previously it was not tested. So in next video basically we are going to see.